Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And so I have a quick video creating a new art journal using this kit that I got from the Planner Society store. So just a little backstory on this. I ordered this. Christy made a bunch of like mixed media art journaling type kits, and the one that I ordered was Vintage Summer. And so what you see here is a mixture of what came in that kit plus a bunch of other papers and napkins and envelopes and things that I pulled out from my stash that I thought went well with what the kit came with, basically. But the colors of the kit are basically these pinks and the mint. I have a bunch of Planner Society papers. Now, the papers didn't come with the kit. These were just different papers that I've had from a previous kit. But the envelope that matches the papers was from that same August kit. And so those are kind of the colors that this kit is, and that I pulled out extra papers of are just like these vintage tone, mint color, the pink, and then just a bunch of vintage papers and stuff like that. And so my intention for this was back in August that I was going to create an art journal using this kit and using the things that I pulled out, just to kind of get back into art journaling, like use it solely for art journaling and for experimenting with alcohol inks and paint and like just a bunch of random supplies that I have. So like I have a whole bunch of brand new alcohol inks, Tim Holtz alcohol inks that I haven't used yet, and I want to try them out. And I have some paints. I have like a bunch of the Holbein gouache in different colors that I haven't used yet. And I just have a lot of art supplies that I haven't used yet. And so I kind of wanted to create a fun place just to kind of experiment with all those things. And I was really inspired by Christy's journal. Like she kept a journal for a trip that she did this summer to Hawaii. And it was this little 6x6 art journal. She kind of did like an art journal memory keeping in there, and she used one of the kits in from her shop and all the things. And so that was my inspiration pretty much for this one. I decided to make it 6x6. So I made this journal, I filmed this after I made my Virtual Voyage 8 Burtonville 2 art journal, which I took the deco journal that James made that you can get on Amazon, and I cut it down and I created a little 6x6 art journal from that. And so I made that one first, and then I figured, you know what, I will do the same thing with this one. I will make a 6x6 journal. And so I spent quite a bit trying to find paper, and so I needed a 12x12 paper so I can cut in half to get that 6x6 paper, just to use as like a template and to use sort of like as my cover paper. And so I have a bunch of colored cardstock, and I spent quite a bit of time going through the colored cardstock trying to find colors, like pulling out papers that the colors matched the kit. And again, the main colors of this kit are that like that vintagey French mint green and kind of a muted pink and some yellow, and then like little vintage pieces here and there, right? And so I was trying to find cardstock that would match that, and I kind of went back and forth with all of my different cardstocks. A lot of them are Felicity Jane, most of them are American Crafts. I have some that are Martha Stewart from Michaels and things like that. And so I think I settled on some sort of teal green color cardstock that I eventually end up cutting in half and using that sort of as my template to create my pages, because I don't think any of my any of the papers that came in the kit and then the extra papers that I pulled out from my stash to match what was in the kit, I don't think any of them are 6x12. So you need a 6x12 to fold in half to make it 6x6. I don't think any of them are 6x12. I think they're all different sizes. I know the Planner Society papers that I pulled from that kit that I had that matched, those are 8.5 by 11. So they're not 6 by 12. They're a little shorter. And then I have things that I folded like glycine bags and book pages and tags and things like that. And of course, all of that stuff is not 6 by 12 like at all. And so I needed something 6 by 12 so that I had that shape to work off of. So once I had my assortment of papers, including the 12 by 12s, I just looking through everything that I have in this stack and kind of separating the smaller bits from the like page bits, I guess you can say. The kit did come with a piece of watercolor paper. I think it's a watercolor, it's a thick paper that I think was supposed to be for a cover, but it's not exactly 6 by 12. I think it'll make more of like an A6 sort of cover. I just kind of pull that to the side along with like tags and things like that because those I'm not going to be using. Same with the stickers, the glitter edgers and everything. I just kind of move that to the side. And I did take a cardstock. So the one that I ended up using, I believe, is a Michael's Recollection cardstock. And I am just cutting it in half, cutting off that little branding strip so that I can get 2 sheets of 6 by 12. And I do end up actually using both sheets in my little signature that I end up creating. And I end up creating like a really skinny signature too. And I am, in hindsight, after I've completely bind the whole journal up, I'm wondering if I intended to add some more pages in it, but it's whatever. I can always just tip in pages. But yeah, so I have my 2 pieces of now 6 by 6 pages, and now I'm just going through all of my papers and just folding everything in half. And you can see here that a lot of the pages are shorter and smaller than the 6 by 6, which is completely fine. I am just gonna bind them all in exactly like that because the beauty of Christy's journal was that there was a whole bunch of different types of paper and different sizes, and all of her pages were different, and it was very mixed media in that way, not only with the mediums that she used, but also the size of the pages and stuff like that. And so any page that was like a little bit bigger, like mostly in height wise, not so much width wise, because I don't think anything I had was wider than the 6 inches. It was mostly taller than the 6 inches. I just trimmed those down. I literally just folded everything in half, and then I eventually just trim those taller pages down so that the height of it is 6 inches. So a lot of these bigger paid papers, they had a lot of stuff, a lot of paper to be cut off from the top or the bottom. Same with these bags. So I had all these paper bags from really old Planner Society kits. These paper bags, this is what the kits came in before they started making the beautiful printed bags. And so I took 2 of them, and those I did cut off on the top, and in the finished journal you'll see how that leaves sort of like a little pocket on the top there. For the actual Planner Society kit paper, so I believe this was from one of the August kits. I don't remember what year that kit was. I know this was a re-release too. She actually did the initial kit and then re-released it. For those pages, they're 8.5 by 11, and I did go ahead and trim them down height-wise to 6 inches. And so width-wise, they're still 11 across, so not exactly 12, but height-wise, they're no longer 8.5, they are 6. And so they're a little short when I fold them in half, but that's completely okay. And I don't think I think this was it. I didn't end up folding all of the papers. I didn't end up folding that last piece of pattern paper or that beautiful Planner Society paper bag. So whatever I included in my journal is everything that you see here that is folded, with the exception of a couple of doilies and some, I think I added some tags to this. But you can see here that I'm starting to trim down some of these pages and move them to the side once I've trimmed them down, and I'm just using my 6x6 paper there just to act as a guide almost. And I was strategic at how I cut down some of the papers. Some of these vintage papers had just like beautiful type or, in them, and I didn't want to cut that off, so I just kind of got rid of all the empty negative space. And a lot of these pages, the parts that I cut off, I am keeping those so that I can use those as collage elements in the actual journal, because they're already the right color, and it's really nice to repeat elements throughout the journal. And so that's kind of how I like to kind of what's the word, create or curate my art journals. If you've noticed, I always work from a kit when making my art journals. Usually it's a kit that I put together. Sometimes it's a kit like a scrapbooking kit or something like that, but the colors are always matched. There's always a color scheme that I go with, because I like the look of my journals to be cohesive. I love cohesive looking journals, and usually when I have the pages that they all match, whatever the cover that I end up using also matches the colors of the papers that I pulled together, and then the mediums that I end up using, like the different paint colors and markers and pencils and stuff like that, those colors also end up being in the similar color scheme. So now I'm looking through all the little ephemera bits that came in the Planner Society kits, and I am kind of folding them up. And so I think I was looking through to see if I found like another tag, but I ended up just using the one that was there. And so this was a fairly thick tag, and so I had to use my bone folder to kind of crease the edge. And that other tag, I think that's one of like a, oh my god, I just lost the word. Merchandise tag. It was already perforated, and so I'm just kind of putting it in like that. And so a lot of the pages, you'll notice they're different sizes, they're different like lengths when I fold them in half and all the things, and that's fine. That was my intention. I wanted it to feel eclectic like that, with the different pieces and different sizes and stuff. And so now I'm just kind of assembling the one signature here. I decided to use one of those teal cardstocks sort of as the cover for the signature, because it was already the size and it was pretty sturdy, and I am just placing all the pages in a way that I thought made sense visually. I left the little pieces for last. I did all the big pages first, and then I'm going back in and adding all the smaller pages, just to kind of see where they look the best, and just adding those in. And I do that. I also add in a few doilies. And so the kit itself came with a couple of doilies, but two of them weren't big enough to kind of fold in half and have them be substantial looking in the journal itself. And so I did have to go through my stash and find a doily. I have a bunch of different size doilies and stuff like that. I think I end up pulling out a few I want to say they were 6x6 doilies. I know I have 6 doilies, and I have like 4.5, and I think I have one that's like 5 I pulled out one's big enough for it. Like this one, I believe, is an 8 doily. These are the doilies that came in the kit. 8 was a little too big, only because then I would have to trim down the actual doily, and I didn't want to do that. But I do end up grabbing some of the I think it was 6 doilies that I pulled out. Like these are all 6 doilies that I have, and I think that's it. I think that's what I end up using. I'm not sure if I put any of the 5 doilies in there in the journal. I don't quite remember, but I do remember putting in the 6 doilies because they just look better folded in a 6x6 journal, I really need to find a better organizational system for all of my paper doilies right now. They're just in one of those plastic, I think they're like gallon bags. Those are the little bags that all of my hip kit club kits came in. Oh my goodness, that was ages ago. That I was on the hip kit club team, but I kept all of those like 12 by 12 gallon bags because they come in handy when you want to store different scrapbooking things. Like I tend to create kits and store them in those 12 by 12 bags because it's just so easy to store, the 12 by 12 papers and the chipboard and different ephemera pieces and stuff like that. But anyway, so that is my little signature here. I'm just going back in. There was a page, like one of the vintage pages here, that when I creased it, it kind of, the paper kind of crumbled a little bit. You know what I mean if you ever used like vintage pieces. And so I am just going in and kind of taping up that crease with some masking tape just to reinforce it because it will totally come apart when you go to bind the journal. And so I think that was the only one that really needed reinforcement. I had a book page there, but I think it was pretty sturdy when I folded it up, so I didn't tape that up. I just taped that one. I think it was like a game sheet. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, so this is my little signature. Next, I spend so much time trying to figure out what to do for the cover because I didn't want to keep the teal cardstock as my cover. I wanted to cover it with something else. And you'll see in a moment that I just end up pulling out all sorts of things. And I think the first thing that I pulled out was vellum. I have a bunch of vellum papers that are 12 by 12 and then 8.5 by 11. And I was just trying to see if any of them spoke to me as a cover or something. And none of them did. And so there is no vellum in this journal. In hindsight, I should probably put vellum in it. But yeah, it's too late now. And so I decided not to use the vellum, but I also have a stack of acetate, and I do believe I eventually pull that stack out and just kind of went through it to see if there was anything that would work. I know when Christy did her little 6x6 journal, specifically the one that she took with her to Hawaii, she used I think she used a printed acetate or maybe just a clear acetate as her cover. And so I was just like, oh, that would probably be a good idea because acetate is sturdy and it'll offer a little bit of protection on the cover. And then I have all these beautiful printed ones. The ones I'm looking through now are all Planner Society ones, but these were 8.5 by 11, so they wouldn't have worked out anyway, so I don't even know why I looked through them. But the couple that I had that were 12 by 12 that I can cut down to 6 by 12 were I think I had like a pink pink bow one from a Spanish scrapbook brand. I had just like a plain polka dot, like gold foil polka dot one. And then the one that really jumped out at me was the one from the Paige Evans Take Me Away collection. This is very, very old. I think this was like Paige Evans' second scrapbooking collection with American Crafts. And I've had this acetate for that long, for forever. It's beautiful, like foiled floral acetate, and I loved how the floral looked on that teal paper. It just looks so pretty, and I was for certain like thinking that I was gonna go with that, and then just kind of trim down my little overhang, because normally when you make signatures like this you have a little overhang from like the middle pages. But yeah, I was so certain that I was gonna go with that acetate as my cover. But then I thought about it, and I was like, do I really want the acetate as the cover? Or maybe I have like 12 by 12 sheets of leather, fashion leather specifically. I had one that was like this beautiful floral, and I think just the floral one. Uh, I thought about using that as my cover. I pulled out my Daphne's Diary paper pads that I bought from the Daphne's Diary shop just to see, because these pads are really long. I think they're A4 sized. Um, but yeah, just to look to see if there's any pages in there that maybe I wanted to use. And there were some beautiful pages in there, and I don't know why I didn't include any of them in this journal now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I looked through that to see if I find a cover. I think it's because I was focusing on just trying to find the right cover. That I didn't. That's so pretty. Like everything is so pretty, but I didn't end up actually using any of those pages from those paper pads. But yeah, I contemplated the acetate. I contemplated just a pattern paper. I contemplated using the leather, the fashion leather that I had, and even some fabric. I thought maybe I have like a sheet of fabric. And just use just the one sheet of fabric to make a cover. Here you can see I'm just trimming down. I do actually end up trimming down the overhang. Normally I don't, because usually the cover will just cover that, but again, I was contemplating using all those other things. What I eventually settled on was just making a fabric cover. So this is one of my snippet covers that I created, and I was already making this cover for something totally different, for like a different journal. So if you saw my last journal, my summer stories journal from this year, it was in this little A6 journal that had a snippet cover. It was a blue toned one, and after I made that one, I actually pulled out supplies to make sort of a pink toned one, and that one took me a while to kind of put together. Um, and but while I was doing this little journal, this little journal sat without a cover for like a couple of weeks because I just didn't know what cover to use for it, like what to do for the cover. I decided to take the snippet project, because right now I was just making the snippet fabric with the slow stitching and all the things. Um, and my intention was just to do another little A6 lovely journal out of it. But then since I had this lying around, I was like, you know what? Let me just use this snippet cover as the cover of the 6x6 journal. And so what I ended up doing was just making the piece of fabric, because basically my snippet cover is just one big piece of fabric that I kind of patchwork together, snippet roll style, all these different scrap pieces of fabric and lace and stuff. And then what I do with these is I slow stitch them together with some embroidery thread. And so I decided to extend that a little bit and make my little pillowcase cover using a different linen. And I made it so that it was able to wrap around the 6x6 journal. I made it actually a little bit bigger, so my cover ends up being a little bit bigger, mostly height-wise, than 6x6, and that was just to accommodate the seam allowance, but I think I left a little too much seam allowance on this one, but it's fine. As long as it hugs my little insert here, my tiny little insert here, it's okay. And so that's what I decided to use for my cover, which makes sense. I don't know why I decided to use something else. I always go back to my try and true, which is some sort of fabric journal cover. I've been loving these little patchwork snippet covers that I've been creating. And if you're interested in learning how to create a similar cover, I do have a class called the Snippet Journal where I show you how to create a snippet cover. The only difference between this cover right now and the one that I show you how to create in the class is that the one that I create in the class is machine stitch. So I machine stitch all the little scrap pieces of fabric, whereas this one I do the glue part, I glue them down to a bigger sheet of fabric, but then I take a needle and embroidery thread and I basically sit there for a good 2 hours and slow stitch all the pieces down onto the bigger fabric. So there's no machine stitching except for when I make like the little pillowcase kind of cover. But yeah, everything is hand sewn, all the little stitches, and that's how I keep all of the different fabric pieces down. And I just love the texture that that gives to the cover. And so I just did a very quick 3-hole pamphlet stitch here to get the signature into the cover. And you can see how all the colors match, like the cover with the pages and all the things. And there's not that many pages here, so hopefully I can fill up this journal. But, you know, again, I am planning to do tip-ins and collage and all sorts of things. And so it will definitely get chunky from how it is looking right now. But yeah, I'm really excited to start playing in this, and I'm really hoping that I can come on and film some processes of me doing that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video of me creating this journal. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will definitely, hopefully, see you all in the next one, and hopefully the next one is a fun process video. Anyway, thanks so much, friends. Bye.